Hello and welcome. This is Faisal with you. In this video, we're going to explain the famous tool in the world of printing and publishing, which is called Kodak Preps, or the well-known tool for print layout. In other words, book layout. Even flyers and brochures, you can do their layout too. Once you become skilled with it, you'll be able to lay out anything for print, even personal cards or business cards. Today, we're going to give a complete and thorough explanation of this tool, from the very basics all the way to mastering it, all in a single video. Of course, the tool depends on you understanding what layout planning means when you use it. That is, you should know the different types of layout and understand how to lay out a book. For example, maybe you've worked with other tools like Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign, and you've tried to do layout with them. But the general idea of the tool is that you need to understand the requirements of layout, or how layout is done, or what the layout process is. So, how are you going to use that knowledge, or try to bring your understanding into this tool, which is really, really easy to use? Guys, this tool really makes things a lot easier for you. Let's just say, with the click of a button, the tool does the layout for an entire book, and the book comes out 100% correct. You don't even need to check after the tool is done. You can check the layout planning process, or check the pages or page numbers. It's a very famous tool called Kodak Preps from Kodak. Yeah, it works with booklets or the Imposition used in printing. Before I start explaining, guys, there's something really important I want to mention: the terminology in printing or layout. The terms I'm going to use can vary from one country to another. For example, they're different in Jordan compared to Egypt, compared to Syria, compared to Iraq. So I'm going to use the terms I know from my own country, Jordan and Palestine. Let's say the layout or printing terms used in these countries vary slightly depending on the workflow. So I'll be using the terminology that I'm familiar with. So as you work, you might be able to understand what I mean or what I'm talking about. Alright, let's get started together. As you can see, the tool's interface is really simple. You'll figure it out on your own in no time. Let's get started. We're going to do the layout for a book, and the book consists of 192 pages. The size of the book is 17 by 24 centimeters. I chose a standard book size, a commonly used size in the world of books. Most people use it, which is 17 by 24 centimeters. So now we're going to do the layout for this book. The layout process will start with what's called perfect binding, or as we call it in Arabic, or in my country, brush. That means the pages are stacked on top of each other, not in a booklet style, not the kind where the pages are nested inside each other. So now I want to start laying out this book, or set it up with the correct distribution method, or the right layout process. Alright, let's get started together. First, as you can see, this is the interface. We'll get to know it together. You have the stock section, which is very important. You have the media section. You have your files, you have Windows resources, so we'll explain all of that, and you have the job section as well. We're going to go over all of this. We'll be explaining the tool, God willing. What I want to say is that the tool, Kodak Preps, is based on you doing the editing first. Then you bring in your file. So, first, we want to do the editing or create a single project, and you'll work on that single project. Or, I don't know what you might call it in your country. We call it a distribution booklet for the pages, and you work on one of them. Then you bring your files, or you bring the file you want to use. Alright, let's start together by going to Job. First thing, to begin with, I go to Resources. So, first of all, I go to Resources. And from here, I want to go to something called New Stock. The New Stock is where I set the plate size. I need to specify the plate size I want, so that later I can arrange the page layout on it. So, from here, I need to select New Stock, that's what it's called. I need to select New Stock. Then here, it asks for the stock name, so I can name it whatever I want. Here, it tells you the manufacturer or who is responsible for it. like the name of the print shop, and so on. So you can name it however you like. I name it as well. Faisal, this part is really important. Guys, you need to enter the plate size, specifically the plate size for your CTP machine, which is the computer to plate machine. So I can mention the size, which is the 50 by 70 size. Because I want to arrange the pages, I have 16 pages on the plate. So I'll choose the 50 by 70 size, which is the size of the 50 by 70 machine. So I'll enter 74.5 by 64.5. It's not a problem. This size is something you determine as you need. Here, it tells you the thickness of the plate, but that's also not very important here, so just put anything. I prefer to set it to 0.13 or 0.13, just like this. Now I'll hit save. Notice what I'm going to write. I'll click here and save it this way. Now, what we notice here is that after I hit save, it went over here too, to something called stock. So, what is stock? It's where it saves what we just did, the measurements or the plate dimensions. So here, I have some ready-made items from the tool. But I want to use the one I just made, or the stock measurement that I just made, which we named Faisal. Of course, you can name it according to the kitchen you're working in, or based on your job, or the name of the book, and so on. So now I want to select Faisal from here. The name is the 50 by 70 measurement that we created, and it was added as a stock item. That means I drag it like this and place it in the operations area, or whatever you want to call it. Now I've completed or accomplished the very first important step, which is creating the plate measurement that we want. Yeah, and then now we want to, let's say, set the page size or the measurement, or do the layout planning, or generally set the signature size. Okay, let's start together with the important thing, which is how to create the signature, or the method of making the signature, or imposition in English. So, guys, we go here to the menu. At the top, we have something called Job. Okay, I click on Job, then go to Create Imposition like this, and we start working, or we get down to business, as they say. Alright, now here it's clear to you, or you can see that it's asking you, what page size do you want to give it? By default, at the beginning, it gives you a preset. We are not, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video. Our book is sized at 17 by 24 centimeters. The book is 17 by 24 centimeters, so you need to enter the width of the book, which is 17. Then the height of the book is 24. And now here's something else important. Let's say, how many pages do you want it to give you across the width? Meaning, how many pages per row? I want 4 because I want to fit 8 pages on one side of the booklet. So I wanted to give me 4 across, and I wanted to give me 2 pages vertically. So, for example, you're basically doing a multiplication calculation. So on one side of the booklet, you'll end up with 8 pages 4 by 2. Alright, now here, which is, what I have here is this one and that one here. They're both important. But you'll understand this more as you use the tool, so I'll also explain it now when we get to the other editing methods, God willing. But what's important for you to understand is that when it comes to this part down here, which is what we call head-to-head, meaning the page is rotated 180 degrees, so it becomes head-to-head to make the printing and flipping process work. Or, in other words, when the book goes into the printing machine, which is, this is offset printing, where the machine flips and prints by itself, so it's really important that this is set to head-to-head. We'll get into this more, but you'll understand it on your own as you use the tool. Alright, so I set it to 17 by 24, which is the most important thing. What are my page dimensions? I also set these, which are important too, as we mentioned, for pages across and 2 pages vertically. I set it up this way. Alright guys, we started working, we've begun. Now, what I want to say is, you need to understand the book's pagination process. So, when it comes to pagination, you need to have a booklet ready, with a piece of paper and a pen or something written down. Or you have the pages numbered, or you've prepared the booklet. I'm sure you get what I mean. Either you're doing it manually, or you've made a dummy version of your booklet and numbered it. So we're going to start with a very, very simple numbering method, and it basically understands itself. Focus on this point. It's an editing tool, so it understands the numbering automatically and gives you the number. So now we're going to start with automatic numbering, and then we'll see how it works. We can also change the page numbers, as we mentioned before. Now, as I said, I have the book layout, which is called the brush, or perfect bound. That's the system where the pages are stacked on top of each other, so I want to number it in the Arabic style. So now I want to number it using Arabic numbering, and we'll see together how it will be numbered in the Arabic way. I go to this, guys, or this tool, which is called page numbering. The name page numbering is clearly showing up. Alright, I select this. The tool, okay. What's clear to me is that it gave me the first number, which is page. Big number one. So it understands. It understands what's supposed to happen. So it starts you off with page number 1. So for the sheet I have in front of me right now, the one I'm holding is already numbered. I want to number it using the Arabic method, which is the 16-page booklet system, size 17 by 24, using the Arabic folding system, or the folding system in general, which of course varies from country to country as I mentioned. So you base the sheet you have in your hands on how you want the book's layout to turn out. I select the option I want. Of course, as I mentioned, for the numbering, I choose number 1 here, then it automatically understands and gives me 4. I can see on the sheet that this is 4. So it numbered it as 4 for me. Then I got 5, and 5 appears here on the sheet. After that, I got number 8, which is next to 5 here on the sheet. Alright, then I got number 9. Number 9, as we can see, is next to 8, so I assign it as 9. Then it gave me number 12, which appears here at the end. After that, number 13, which is the one right before the last, here. And finally, the last one is 16. Alright, if you noticed, this is the Arabic system, which is the perfect bound, while the English system is the opposite. It starts with number 1 from here. So if the book you have in your hands is in English, the sheet you have summarizes or shows you how to lay out the layout planning correctly. Alright, now we've finished the most important step, which is numbering the pages the way we've just seen. Yeah, at the beginning, before I start arranging the booklets and get my file, we also need to start by working on this booklet and finish it completely, which means adding the register or register mark, which are the crop marks, the booklet names, and how you can control them. And this is how you do it. Alright, I go to something here below called Marks. Marks, okay? I click on it here and it opens this for me, so it gives me several options, which are the register marks, crop marks, and these things that we put on the plate for the post-printing stage, like cutting or even during the printing process itself. The color names on the plate, so the person working on the printing machine knows, for example, that this is the cyan color. This is magenta, this is yellow, and this is black, like this. So now, guys, I select sample group like this. I choose mark sample group and then drag and drop it onto my layout planning like this. As you can see. Of course, the zoom might be small, so we zoom in and check it out together. I select the zoom tool here, and we notice that they've put in crop marks or registers like this. And they've also added the color bars up here, which let me see the color ratios, and that's important for printing. Also, there's something important here, which is the names of the signatures for printing purposes. Anyone working in folding or in printing needs to know which signature this is, what page number it was, and what color number I have. Now, I press Alt to zoom out and go back like this. Or I can press Command 0 or Control 0 to return to the zoom level we were working at. Now we're going to start together with another important thing, which is the spacing. Yes, the spacing between the pages, which is what the print shop asks you for. Or sometimes there are rules that say there shouldn't be any space between the pages, meaning the pages should go right up to the edge, or maybe you need to leave a centimeter of space between every 4 pages, depending on what's required of you. So, since you're working in layout planning, you definitely understand what I'm talking about. Let's zoom in here and go to the first space, which is between the pages. I set this by entering 0 here, 0 for me here, and also 0 here. Alright, now here I want to have 1 centimeter between every 2 pages, so I set this to half a centimeter here. And here, in the same way, I set it to half a centimeter here as well. Like we said, 0 for this space, so I put 0 here and also 0 here. This is the method, as we can see. I also have a space here which is very important as well. This usually requires a centimeter. I give it half a centi here so that it ends up being a centimeter. And here as well, I have half a centimeter. I'm sure you understand what I'm working on. Since you understand the layout planning process, now there's something important, which is the plate grip, as we call it, or the grip that the printing machine requires to place the plate inside the machine. It needs a specific distance between them. Let's talk about the printed design on the plate, or the layout planning printed on the plate, and the bottom edge of the plate. So here, when I press on this, we used to make it 6 centimeters. Again, this depends on the area you're in or the place you might be working at. So now I press 6 centimeters, I set it to 6 centimeters, and with that, we're almost done. But I also come to this part here, which is important, let's say, for example, for the person working on the printing machine, so they can clearly see. They can check the color ratios, see if the color tones are correct or not. So what I do is, first, I select it from here. I chose it from here and made a selection. Then I go over here to the right, where I have something called lock mark to the position. That means it's locked in place to stay on top, but I don't want that, so I just uncheck it from here. Then I drag it down a bit so it's closer to the printing process or to the operation. Let's say the cutting process. Alright, now I still have the name left, the name of the booklet or the name of our job, so it shows up on the print as well. I just click on it here. And you'll also find that it's locked in the same way, so you just drag it and place it however you want, just like we're seeing here. You can control its position however you like. Alright, great. Now we've prepared the, let's say, the pre-press stage, or the most important thing, which is that I now know the measurements. We've done the numbering, we understood the book system at first, whether it's stacking the pages on top of each other or perfect binding. So, let's say we finished everything in this first stage, or the very important stage, which is the foundation of the layout planning. And you need to understand something important, which is that at the very beginning of working on it, you'll be setting up pages like this, and either you or the tool itself will save it for you as a template, so you can easily use it later for other books, magazines, or similar projects. This way, you won't have to start from scratch every single time. It's a helpful feature that saves time and effort. So, you don't have to do this every single time we're talking about it. You can just do it once, like now, and keep it in your stock here, and then you can work on it or use it for another job, and so on. I'm sure this point has reached you. I mean, we're living in a fast-paced era where a lot of things have become easier, and so many tools are making things simpler for us. Okay, now I want to check something here because, since the beginning of the video, I've been telling you about it and so on, so I'll go to my products here. So, I click on this one here, which is part 16BB, and it will show up here. This is the binding style. So, like I said, this is what I want. First of all, the perfect bound, perfect binding, and this booklet system are among the most commonly used methods in the Arab world, or generally used in printing. So I'm going to focus on these two things. But what matters to me is that I have perfect binding here at the beginning. Because, as I said, the book consists of many pages, so the booklet system won't work. So let's take a look together. Now we're moving on to a new stage, which is the file stage. So how do I bring my work, my design, or my book into Book Preps and place it on the layout that we distributed? I go here to Files, as you can see, and it will appear for you. I'll zoom in on it just so you can see it. I need to click on the arrow or on it. Sorry, I meant the plus sign. The plus icon, as you can see. The .dat files icon pops up, and when I click on it, it asks me, where do you want to get your file from, or from where? You want to bring in your file, so I have some files prepared for the tutorial. I want to choose the one that is. The one with 192 pages. As I mentioned at the beginning of the tutorial, my book consists of 192 pages. Alright, now just so we're clear. Of course, you probably already understand editing before you even open the tool. So you know that in this case, you'll need to do a bit of math. Which is, you need to divide the number of pages in the book by the, let's say, the number of pages distributed per booklet, or how many pages are in each booklet. Here, my booklet has 8 front pages and 8 back pages, 8 fronts and 8 backs. So the total number of pages in my booklet is 16 pages. So you need to divide 192, you do a simple math division, 192 divided by 16, to find out how many booklets you have in the end and know how to handle them. Now, as I mentioned, I choose the 192 pages with the size 17 by 24. Sorry, that's the size of my book, and I proceed. Alright guys, now after I've done the important step, which is getting my file, which, as we said, is 192 pages. Now I need to do the calculation I talked about. As I said, my book size is 17 by 24, perfect bound. Or, in other words, the pages are stacked on top of each other. So, as we mentioned, the front of the signature is 8 pages, and the back of the signature is also 8 pages, which means each signature contains 16 pages. So I need to do the calculation, which you should definitely already know and understand. Since you understand imposition, which is, I need to divide the number of pages by 16. That is, I need to divide the total number of book pages by, let's say, the number of pages distributed in, or assigned to, each signature. So let's see together what result I get. I go to the calculator. I enter 192 pages, divided by 16 pages, which is the number of pages assigned to, or distributed in, each signature. I get the number 12. Okay, now I got the number 12, which is a whole number. And that means there are no fractions. So there's no 12.5, or 12.75. This fits with the explanation of the tool or the book that I'm talking about right now. But what if you get a number that's not whole, like 12.5 or 12.75? That's what I'm going to explain after we finish this part of the explanation. I'll show you how I can distribute it and make a separate signature for it within the tool. And also how your job can come out as a complete file or a single PDF. Alright, now that we're done, and we know that I need to have 12 signatures, because there are 12 signatures. That takes 192 pages. 192 pages. What can I do now? There's something very important before I grab the file and drag it here. I want to increase the number of notes I have. I only have one assignment that I want to do 12. And remember what I told you, that before you drag the file, you have to set the number of signatures this way. I go to this green icon or the plus sign, which is to add signatures, and I click it 12 times, which, as we said, is the number of signatures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I make sure by scrolling down and I see that I have 12, or that's the number of signatures. Now I go back to the first signature, or the very top one here. And I select the file. I work with the file that I brought, which, as we said, is 192 pages, size 17 by 24. I drag it and place it at the beginning of the signature like this. And just like that, I can tell you that your whole book is done or your layout planning is finished. Now, I'm going to explain how to export it or print it as a PDF. How you can export it for printing, export it for print, or for the plate making machine, which is computer to plate. Alright, let's just double check our work. For example, let's go to any imposition or any signature at random. I'll find that the tool has arranged the pages like this and distributed them. Now guys, like I told you, I just want to say that editing is done in seconds, and you'll find yourself working faster and faster. Now, after I've finished this part, how do I export it or how do I render it? We go to File and choose Render. That's the way. Here you may have a seat that no one has a PDF for because you make it a PDF. Thanks always after what I do for him. Export that you do the sorting or printing process from the same Illustrator tool for the overprint subject for you. Or remove the overprint from the white, blind, confirm, and or add control and see in it as you want. And it is always preferred, meaning that I make a print from here with me and tell me where you want. It asks me where I want to save the file, so I chose for it to be here. I can name it Ed1 like this and click OK. Now it's exporting or doing the export process. Let's check it out. I just opened it in the location I saved it on my desktop. Let's see if it works. Wow, it's really nice, so simple and so easy to use. Now, you can of course grab it. I'm just using some dummy content here to show you how the pages look, and I've enlarged the page number so you can see it clearly. So, I just want to tell you that this wraps up the first explanation in this tool, which is about how to work with a book that has specific pages or uses the perfect binding system. Now, let's talk about a half signature or half a signature. Let's say, for example, I had a book with 192 pages. When we divide that by 16 pages per signature, we get 12 signatures. Now, let's discuss what happens if we end up with a half signature. So, 12 and a half, meaning 8 pages at the end, which is just one side. How do I handle that? How does the tool handle this? We'll explain it using the same layout and the same perfect bound system. Daftpound Halamaya. I distributed the pages at the beginning, so I'll continue explaining how I deal with the situation when I have a half signature, which is 8 pages at the end by themselves. Now, I keep the same. Distribution is Tana or product is Tana, and as I mentioned before, I will bring my file, and I want to finish with the correct number of notes. I want to give the number which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 34 with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now, if I want to add more, I can add again. So now I have 13 signatures. But the very important thing in this process is that instead of having this option set to sheet, I set it to single-sided. And now I'll show you how to number it. If the last thing you do is single-sided, choose this option. And now, what we have left is the numbering process, specifically, how to number the last pages correctly. I go back again to this tool, which is the page numbering tool, and of course, just like we talked about at the very beginning of this process. Of course, you've already counted your pages, or maybe you've gathered them together, whether it's 1 or 2 sheets, and you're thinking about how you want to number them. So, based on the sheet I have here in front of me, I want to number the last 8 pages, which are single-sided, or what some people call one-sided printing, depending on the terminology used in your area. So I select the numbering, and it's important here that you make sure that here you have the page number set, meaning the page number should start from 1. For example, if you had 10 pages, try to set it, or rather, make sure it starts at 1 so we can work on it together. So I chose this tool, the numbering tool, and we'll start numbering. I set this to 1, okay? Then it automatically assigns 2 to the next page. Here it will be 3, here it will be 4, here it will be 6, here it will be 7, and finally, here it will be 8. Along the way, if you keep going through our pages, our book ended up with 192 pages. Here you'll have 193, 194, 195, 196, 197, 198, 199, 200. 100 comes before that number. That's how it works. 90, 97, 98, 99, 200. 100 comes before the number, just like the pages. That's how it's understood. Whoever is going to print, or the printing house, will understand that this is just a single side, which is half a signature, print, flip, and then I also go back and choose the first thing, the first signature we made. And just like we did a little while ago, I select my file, the one I've prepared, which is 200 pages, and I add it as a cell, or 200 sheets, and I click ADD selection. Add selection or add to my work, and if I also want to double check my calculations, I go here to the calculator, enter 200, and divide by 16, which is the number of pages per signature. Okay, I hit equals, and it gives me 12.5. So I come here, and I upload my file, and that's it. Perfect, Salome. I go back to the last one to double check my work, and I see that it also took this one. And like I mentioned earlier, when you want to export for print, make sure it's a PDF and I name it. For example, F2. Then I click OK, and now let's check together, step by step, how this works at this point, especially if you want to make absolutely sure that our work is correct and everything is functioning as expected. So we select F2, and let's go to the last one, which is the one that matters to us. How did it arrange them? Did it print and flip 193, 193, 194, 195, 196, 197, 98, 79? If you understand the process of printing and flipping, then that's it for this topic. And that was the explanation for the case when I have the book, yes. The point is, this is half a booklet. Now we're going to talk about what we mentioned before, the quarter booklet or the quarter sheet, depending on what you call it in your area or country. Now we're going to explain what to do if you have 12.75. Earlier, I explained what to do with 12.5, that's 12 and a half booklets, and how I handled the half booklet. Okay. First of all, guys, I always prefer that you handle the quarter booklet as a separate file. Why? Because most of the time, the printing house or the production manager, depending on who you're dealing with, will ask you to have it as a separate file. Let's say it's printed on a small machine by itself, or printed on a machine that's smaller than the one used for the rest. Earlier, I was explaining printing on the 50 by 70 machine. Now, this quarter booklet, since in the end, not all books have a quarter section, but it might be printed on. Yeah, a small machine, meaning distributing the 4 pages on it, which could be or. Sorry, 54 by 49.5, if I remember the size correctly. So let's take a look together, but let's go back and do our calculation just to make sure. If we say the book has 204 pages, divided by 16, which is for the 16 pages distributed per signature, like we divided earlier, it comes out to 12.75. That means I have 12 signatures, half a signature, and a quarter of a signature. because we want to explain it, and as I told you, I want to handle it in a separate file so there's no confusion or mix-up inside the main file at first. So I'll go back to the explanation we did at the beginning. I want to create a new stop, and I want to name it Faisal 5. And it turns out that the name doesn't really matter here. What's really important is the name you give it. For the plate size, you enter your plate size, or for our file, it's 52.5 by 49 or 45.5, depending on the size you have at the print shop. Here, always keep it at 0.3 unless you specifically want something different. And I click Save like this. Now I drag it just like we explained earlier. I'll find it under 1 in the stock. I drag it and place it like this. Then I go to Job, just like we explained at the beginning, and I go to Create Imposition to make a new signature for myself. I want to set the size back to 17 by 24. Now here's something important. 24, now here, this is important, for us. At the beginning, we had 4 pages and a spread because I had 8 pages on one side of the signature. Now, I only have 4 pages on one side of the signature, so I set it like this: horizontal and vertical. And here, remember we had head-to-head, which means head-to-head. Now, I want to explain what I mentioned at the beginning about the layout. He gave me the head-to-head arrangement, and they're standing horizontally. Now, I want them to be laid out head-to-head, meaning you'll see in a moment what I mean. I want it to be head right, meaning facing to the right or in landscape orientation, taking the signature's layout or size in landscape. So I clicked head right and set it up this way, perfect. So it gave me head-to-head and displayed it the way we're seeing now. Now I want to go back and continue my work. I put 0 here because we want 0, and here's 0 as well, here. Or from up here, I also want to set my 1 centimeter margin again, so it gives me a 1 centimeter space here. Alright. Then I go back here to the marks symbol group, and I add the registration marks just like we did at the beginning. Here, I remove the lock from it. So I can control it however I want, just as I please, like this. Once again, I try to carefully remove the lock and do it this way, alright. Now, I also make sure to double check and confirm the spacing I have here, which is I'll make sure of the distance I mentioned, the grip distance for printing, between the binding print and the edge of the plate or the bottom of the layout. So I set it to 6 centimeters like this. Now let's talk about something important. We set a quarter. How do I start working with it? Same thing here. I set it to single-sided like this, and then I go to the numbering tool, which is the page jumper. And I number them like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you do the half signature process. Of course, you'll have already separated your pages in InDesign or Acrobat. Then you use this method. Drag from here and place it. You can also use this method when editing brochures or flyers, depending on what suits you. Of course, this was our explanation, or this was our tutorial, in case my book has a quarter signature using this method. Alright guys, now we want to talk about something else that's also really important in editing, which is when I have a booklet system. Booklet editing is very popular in printing, and there are other tools that can give you this feature, but now we'll explain it professionally, how I started working with it, for example, when my page size was A4. The number of pages is 16, and I want to print it on the large machine, which is the 50 by 70 or 70 by 100 machine. How do I handle it in this way, or in this situation? How do I work with it? Let's take a look at this together. The topic should be easy, especially since I already explained the perfect bound system at the beginning. Now, before you start anything, you need to do just one thing. You have to tell the person in charge that you want this as a booklet, or as saddle stitch or horse stitch, depending on what it's called in your area. You select this option here, bar of 0 pp, and you click on it right here. Okay. Then I go to the binding style, and instead of perfect bound, I change it from perfect bound to this small one here, which is saddle, the booklet system, or saddle stitch, or horse stitch, as it's called. That's it. Then I continue with our usual method. Our method is to go to Resources, create a new stock, and name it KCell. I leave it, and depending on what you want here, you can also set it up in Signity. Here, I give it the size for our plate 70.5 by 60.5. And here, as we said, it's however you want, so it's not fixed. Here as well, I add the bleed, and I give it this way. Then, as I mentioned, I go to stock. Of course, I set it to something solid, 6, and I put our stock here. Then I go again to Job and choose either for the booklet or now, or for the booklet now. For me, since the size we have, the book size is A4, or it's going to be large, so I'll only have it on one side of the booklet, or just on one side of the plate, which is basically 4 pages. So I set this to 2 for the width and 2 for the height of the vertical, which also makes 2, so in total I only have 4 pages. Alright, and here I set it to head, just like we always agree, head to head. And here, head right, so it lays it out flat or in a landscape format, and I click OK like this. Now, I make my proof from here. I want to show. Alright, and from here I want 0.5 centimeter, and from here also 0.5 centimeter, so it gives me the spacing between the 4 pages, and between every 2 pages it gives me a total of 1 centimeter. Then I go again to the marks here, to the assembly group, and I also work on show die. Here too, I remove the lock icon and adjust it exactly like this. Perfect. Now I also set my spacing. It could be 3 centimeters. The distance between this and that. Now, the page numbering is also important, but as is known in the booklet system, make sure it's always set to 1. The start of the numbering, as you know, in the booklet system, numbering is easy. So you put this as 1, you have 4, you have 5, and here at the very end it will give you 8, and that's it. Now, after I've finished the numbering process, which is very important, I want to go back and do our calculation on the calculator, which is, we said the number of pages in the book is 16. What do I need to divide by? I'm going to divide by 8 pages, because I have 8 pages on one side of the booklet. 4. So I tell him, yes, I have 16 divided by 8, which is the number of pages per booklet, and the result will be 2. That means I only have 2 booklets this way. I choose, just like we explained a little earlier, so here I just select another booklet. I go back and select or work on the first booklet, then I go to. And then I drag the book. Of course, he definitely understands that it's a booklet and all that, so I drag it like this. Now that's it. I only have 16 pages that have been distributed in the booklet system. Let's export them or print them as a PDF. I go to print, as I explained, I go to PDF and I print, and here I name it F3. Let's check this file out. Let's make sure of it here. You'll find that it gave you 4 PDF pages, which is the number of booklets I have, or the number of pages distributed in the correct way, or the way we want. So, this was our explanation of the Kodak Preps tool. I started with you from the very beginning of the tool, showing you how to use it and how to deal with the interface, all the way to the end. I hope you found it useful, and like I told you at the beginning, this tool really depends on your understanding of trading. If you understand the trading process, believe me, you won't have any trouble with it. It's just a matter of knowing how to use it. Now, I hope I've explained the most important things in this tool and the key points. Things that everyone needs to know or that everyone should handle the right way. Of course, there are still a lot of things I haven't talked about yet, but I can guarantee you that after this video, I'm sure that after this video, you'll be able to handle any book. Make a mock-up for it, or for any magazine, or anything else. After that, you'll be able to handle the topic depending on what comes your way. For sure, you'll only come across 4 types, or maybe 8 types, with sizes smaller than A4, like the one I just worked on. So in the end, that's how it is. And like I said, this was my explanation for today or in this video about the Kodak Preps tool. So God willing, I hope everyone benefits and that nothing is too difficult for anyone. And if you run into any problem or want to ask any question, I hope you'll ask me on Instagram. I've left my number or the Instagram link in the video description. Contact me on Instagram, God willing. I reply to everyone and answer all inquiries. Thank you so much, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This really supports me and helps me a lot. That's it. I also have a lot of videos on the channel about Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, and design tools in general. Thank you for watching, and thanks again. Take care. Goodbye.